Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube series and the World Class Championship Wrestling Review series as well. We are in the, first third of March in 1985, March 9th, 1985. Three matches here this week and a lot of Jim Cornette. Actually, a heel heavy show as only three matches this week, but strong heels, everybody all the way around. Jack Victory, who made his debut, I believe, last week against the One Man Gang, so not a a very strong sophomore voyage for Victory, as the Gang obviously going to take over. Gary Hart, very happy with the Gang. Gang is probably one of the safer big men you can see. I mean, his shots are measured, they're safe, they're intense, but the sale of them and selling of them is always well done by the majority of enhancement talent that are there, including Jack Victory. Victory really above his pay grade, so to speak. Anyway, we see basic moves, kicks and punches by Gang. Gang not doing a whole heck of a lot in there, but what he does make sense, is powerful, is strong, and is worth checking out. You do see a massive suplex attempted by Gang, but he actually sets him on the apron and brings it back in with a clubbing forearm. Victory, up and over, and gets the wrath of the Gang, continuing headbutt by the Gang, and One Man Gang is a guy who, amazingly in this match anyway, does things like a hammerlock, which I never thought I'd see from the Gang, and also a hammerlock slam by the Gang. Maybe Gary Hart giving him the advice to add a little more wrestling in there. But a big splash by the One Man Gang and a victory for the Gang to close the first match here this week. We jump into the tag team match of the Midnight Express, Condrey and Eaton, with Jim Cornette versus Brian Adias and Mr. Mantell, Johnny Mantell. And interesting tag team championship match here. I think it's a championship match anyway. But Cornette is cocky and brash, as is to be expected. Adias, endorsed by the Von Erichs, coming back, and a big deal for him to return home. Cornette is happy with his team, as is to be expected. They don't really focus that much on his alliance, Cornette's alliance with Rip Oliver, although that is the main event. Rip Oliver and Kerry Von Erich, your main event this week. But they under focus on that, so maybe there's some issues there. I don't really know. But very, very good cutoff by the challengers here this week, as Mantell and Adias working very well together. You know, a lot of arm locks, hammer locks, and the like. Mantell been around quite a while in world class, on and off for the last couple of years. Always good to bring a high quality, very basic and well wrestled match to the forefront. Dennis Condrey in for the early part of the match, for the majority of it. Bobby Eaton comes in on the receiving end of an arm drag, and he does not like his life very much either, as the baby faces are taking it to the Midnight Express. One thing the Midnight Express does so well, it reminds me a lot of a tag team version of Flair. They are happy and willing and capable of selling at any given moment. Roll up for near fall by Mantell, but Bobby gets his shoulder up just at the last second. Bobby also a master at drawing a 2 count out to 2 9/10. Tag back to Dennis Condrey, and that leads to a head scissors by Condrey. Adias back in the ring, and he's got a little bit more of the speed, a little bit more of the process there. Switch off many times by the Midnight Express. They are working ahead of Adias for several minutes here. Adias has been now, by this time, a couple years later, after his first foray, all over the world, and It shows because he can hang more on the mat than he could when he was last here, which is a good sign, a happy sign for all involved. I would assume, and we then move into a situation where the Midnight Express does get your victory. They get the Midnight Express almost looks to lose, but the Russian leg sweep by Mantel. But Cornette comes in with the tennis racket 1, 2, 3. They got a good 10, 12 minutes out of that match, and more heat on the Midnight Express. We continue with the main event, and we're also announced that the American Tag Team Championship will be on the line, the Fantastics and the Midnights, next week here on World Class. But before we get to next week, we got to finish this week. Rip Oliver and Kerry Von Erich in your main event. Modern Day Warrior versus the Crippler, says the graphic. And, obviously not going to be the same level of match. They're given about 10 minutes or so, maybe a little more, maybe 12. But Cornette with the Crippler, I think that could have been an alliance that could have gone a little further had Corny stayed a little longer, but that did not happen. Amazing riding wrestling time by Oliver on Von Erich, and Von Erich able to stay with him, which is a bit of a surprise. You don't think of Kerry Von Erich as a on the mat wrestler. You think of him more as punch, go, and move. But for several minutes, the first 2-3 minutes of the match, they are on the mat, and they are grappling, and they are jockeying for position with each other. We move into Oliver having a bear hug, a very long, drawn-out bear hug, lasting a couple of minutes. On Oliver, Cornette is about to have an aneurysm at ringside over this. And Kerry fights from underneath for the next couple of minutes as the bear hug takes more out of him than I think he imagined possible, at least in story mode here. And Oliver is your typical heel that can get more out of a guy like Kerry. They're not really doing anything. It's mostly selling, but that's the way wrestling was in the 80s, early 90s, and obviously 60s, 70s. It was not the bing, bing, bing all over the place stuff, and the crowd loved it just the same. We then go to more basics as Kerry is trying to get the claw, whether it be the head temporal claw or the stomach claw. Then we see a switch back to the involvement of Sunshine shown at ringside a few times. Oliver takes back over with a reverse chin lock, and Kerry has to fight up from underneath, hits a sleeper / choke. In there, and they battle over head control for the next several minutes. Jim Cornette not satisfied with that as the benefit of things, or the process of things. The referee does get knocked down and toppled with about 2 minutes left in the program. That is something that nobody wants, including Jim Cornette. Cornette is not satisfied with that at all, and Cornette makes his way in, and that leads to a disqualification victory for the Modern Day Warrior Kerry Von Erich, as Cornette's interference leads to trouble. But we will close this episode, and we'll be back with more right after this.